Well, welcome to Get on the Ark. I'm here with Dr. Randy Shannon, and welcome.
So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to be on your show. It's not very often that I get to be on shows where we actually get to talk about the basics and getting started and even spirituality. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. You know, we met at the Reawaken America tour. Most people don't know what that is. And how did you get connected with the Reawaken America tour?
We actually work with a guy, he's a podcaster, and he's been getting us into a few of those. And then, in particular, Clay Clark's attorney works with us in a company and a couple of the former speakers on his stage. So it's just been a natural fit to go to every one of his events for, the last half of this year, especially.
Yeah. What's your experience at those events? Like, what was it? What you expected?
It's, well, we always put up a booth and our booth gets mobbed. So that part I'm very excited. I love that they do the media rooms. And that's where you and I met up. I love going in there because I'm actually a former Fox affiliate talk show host. I did that for 8 straight years. And when they did the lockdowns in March of 2020, I had already been speaking out against that thing over there because it just didn't, I'm a naturopath. So it just didn't make sense to me. And when I started doing that, March 2020, they actually killed the show. I got a phone call on a Saturday morning saying the show's no more. So, yeah. So I love media rooms. I love getting in there. I have a real passion for that.
So tell us a little bit about you're in Miami. You're a naturopath. You have this special gift that God's given you that you can look at someone's fingernails, their tongue, and you can almost diagnose them based on what you see.
I almost feel like God gave us those things so that we could be seen and know what in the world was going on. But yeah, when I was a little kid, I went to the doctor and I had been having what they call UTIs, urinary tract infections. And no one could figure out why. And so finally, my mom gets me to a doctor and he says, well, stick out your tongue. And if you remember as little kids, I don't know if they still do it at the MDs, but they would take something like a popsicle stick and hold down your whole tongue and look at your tonsils. This guy didn't. This guy held it on the tip of my tongue and he was looking at my actual tongue. And so he asked my mom a series of questions. And one of them was, is she getting a lot of sugar in her diet? And so the answer was yes, because back then we had Kool-Aid. Hey, Kool-Aid, those were all the commercials. We had candy stores on every corner and you could get whatever you wanted for like 4 cents. And no joke, to have a couple nickels in my pocket meant I could go to that store and like load up. That's when we had popsicles like crazy. And I can't even tell you all the things that, Frosted Flakes and all the fun cereals, Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms, all those things. So I was probably getting an insane amount of sugar in my diet. And he said, stop letting her have the sugar. And so my mom went cold turkey, no soda, none of that. And I had to go, regular, which is really interesting because once I killed that crave, I guess, and my mom stopped buying all of that, not only in the whole rest of my life did I never get another UTI, which is very rampant in a lot of populations, especially like elderly who are in the nursing homes, and their diets, if you look at it, high in sugar. And so I never got, and I didn't realize that was my first interaction with a tongue analysis. And then fast forward when I went back to school and decided, okay, naturopath, I had 2 loves. One was to be a litigator attorney. Like I just wanted to fight for the little guy in the courtroom, stand for real true justice and not let people get railroaded, or become a naturopathic doctor because I had a passion in that. And so the naturopathic doctor part of me is what won out. And I went back to school, and one of the sections was tongue analysis. They did a little dabbling in face, a little bit in the fingernails. And I found when I went to do my clinicals that I was just fascinated by this. And so from that, I just said, okay, I love this. And I went and I put the feelers out, looked for a doctor that was amazing. He's now since retired, but I went to Wisconsin and worked with this doctor and learned everything he had. Every patient that came in, and he had a super busy clinic, he had everybody sticking out their tongue, and we were looking at everything. And I studied beyond to learn this. And I love what I do. Literally, anywhere I go, I can, okay, they have a spleen issue, they have a lymphatic problem, they have a heart issue. Oh my gosh, their kidneys are in trouble. And so I even try to reach out to different people that don't know me just to tell the staff, hey, because this person's important to America right now, please tell them that they need to reach out to me for their kidneys or whatever it is. So,
Wow.
yeah, I love what I do.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So where did this start at? So you went to Wisconsin,
Hmm.
and then you're in Miami, Florida.
I am in Miami, but my clients are in all 50 states and 18 countries. And it's because nobody comes to see me. There is no walk in clinic that you're going to come, and because I don't want you moving around. I want solid stationary photos. So you can be literally anywhere in the world. And I do these analyses. So I have computers behind this one that when somebody sends me photos, I blow them up. I'm looking at it and I'm looking for everything. And God is the one who set this whole thing up. If you look at a tree, for example, and everybody learned this in elementary, if you take a tree and you cut it in half and you see the rings, the life of the tree, how long that tree has lived. You can see if it was exposed to fire or pestilence or flood. And the human body is no different. We look at our fingernails, our faces, our tongues, top and bottom. We make angry faces. Signs show up on our ears, they show up on the toenails. And, if you get growths on the body, cherry colored moles, I could take a picture of a cherry colored mole and send it to 100 dermatologists, and they'll all give me a different answer. And they will all tell the client to freeze it off, and then they come back with a vengeance. That was never the answer. Okay. And so I'm the one who goes to the root cause of whatever it is. The cherry mole is only an outward sign of the body saying, pay attention, listen to me, help me. And then those will go away naturally once the issue is fixed.
Do you find, obviously a lot of this comes from diet and nutrition, but do you find a lot of common, like similarities, like there's something that's overwhelmingly consistent that you see in your practice?
Well, if you look at the statistics, heart disease is the number one cause of death in this country. I see a lot of those. Cancers are number two. I love taking on that type of a patient because even if they decide that they want to go the chemo route, which I'm against and would never do. Okay. So I'm just going to put that out there. I don't talk anybody out of it. Everybody has their own decisions to make. But that is the number two cause of death. And that would be a fight very hard to win if you weren't doing my methods. So if you're going to fight that, then you do have to boost your immune system. It's like if you go into a fight and you have an empty gun, don't you think you should load it if you want to have a chance?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same with our bodies because the only reason you got a cancer or got a heart disease or became a late diagnosed type 2 or even a type 1, which those are misdiagnoses. But as those things happen to people in life, it is a result of a decision that you're either making today or something that you've made in the past because you've now opened the immune system. You've weakened it enough to open a door for whatever that sickness or disease is to walk in. So we help you close the doors, refill the storage bins of the body so that it's got what it needs so that it then can fight. Most everything is reversible in 6 months or less, except for major things that somebody's been fighting for 30, 40 years. And cancer, sometimes, I've got some great cancer stories. But sometimes those can take a little bit longer as well.
So Tell us a little bit about your journey, like with God. Like, how did this correlate with God in your life?
Yeah, when I was actually going to school, my thesis was completely on God's word and the laws that He has set in stone of what we're to eat, how we're to eat, what we're not to eat. And so my whole thesis was on that and about the healers being a natural type of healer. Um, you know, that gave me such a love and passion to take it and have it be even a ministerial type of foundation. And so whenever I mean, I literally pray for all of my clients. I put it in when I certain clients I do full reports for, and I will put it in there that I'm praying for you. Um, you're not going to get that from a medical doctor, number one, and they're not going to take it a natural route. Number two, I'll give an example. My father had kidney cancer. They were going to take 50 to 100% of his right kidney. And no matter what, my dad was kind of sold out on the MD system. It's all he's ever known. And so, what does God's word say? You're not a prophet in your own backyard, right? So, those people knew you when you misbehaved. So, they don't really want to give you too much credibility, I guess. Even though they're super proud of me and love what I do, he still had his faith in the medical system. And so 30 days from the time he was diagnosed to the time that they were going to do a surgery, that's it, was just 30 days. So I asked the doctor how much knowledge he had about health, nutrition, etc. He was a pretty buff guy. And he said, "Well, I go to the gym." I said, "Do you take anything?" And he said, "Well, some EFAs occasionally." Nothing. He was not refilling those storage bins. And so when we walked out, I said to my dad, I said, "Do you want to live? Do you want to hold on to your kidneys?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." So I had already packed up my car with everything that I knew he would need. I didn't know when I left that the surgery was only 30 days later. So in 30 days, I show back up from Miami to Iowa, where my dad and mom live. And he went into the surgery, comes out, the doctor gives the family the update, but then he turns to me and he says, "There's something different about your father's surgery," which, if that's not a sign from God, I don't know what is. And I've had those all throughout. And so I said, "What was it?" And he said, "Well, normally when we take a diseased organ out, it's full of lesions, like it's exploded outward. Your father's was in perfect condition." Okay, that's amazing. But they still operated. So then he said, "You know, and you saw on the screens your father's cancer." Yes. "And you know, we were going to take 50 to 100% of his right kidney." Yes. He goes, "We only needed 10%. So we took 12." So in just 30 days, we had healed that skin, his his methods, and me just kind of guiding it, and my father doing the protocol. The skin had healed up and the cancer had backed out the door. That much. Had they waited or even taken a look, I don't think that they would have even done that surgery, because they would have seen, wow, there's not much here to even operate on.
Wow.
So yeah.
So when when did you like kind of become aware that, hey, maybe the medical pharmaceutical industry is lying to us? Or
Yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting. Like when I was younger, I guess the internet was out. I was a young mom, and so I was busy with life. I wasn't getting on computers. So I was pregnant with my first son at 20 and had him at 21. My next one was by 23, and we didn't have things like, at least I didn't know about it if it did exist, internet, where we could just go do Google searches. Maybe it was there, maybe not. But I had a couple of friends that were like, "I'm not vaccinating my kids. You shouldn't be vaccinating the kids." And I went out and bought a couple of books on it, but then they sat on my shelf. I didn't really read them. But I had this idea, it was gnawing at me. I knew every time I got pregnant, I have 4 sons, every time I got pregnant, that I knew I wanted to eat totally right. I was never a bad eater, but as good as my knowledge was at the time, that's what I wanted to do. So it is an innate thing. But as I saw things like a jab for chickenpox, I thought that's like an odd thing because we all had it. Why would we need a jab for that? I don't think anybody needs a jab for that. And so I would much rather my kids be exposed and go through it than actually take something for it. And so that's when I started to back out the door on that. So unfortunately, my first and second son, I really didn't have a ton of knowledge, but by the time my third one came, um, I started to not get them. And that's when the records were still like written. They weren't really computerized at that time. And so, I was just like writing in things myself to help them to avoid that, if that makes sense. And yeah, I know I'm saying it on taping, but they're all grown men now. And I'm practically an old woman. I'm 56. We're supposed to live to, by the way, to 125 with no issues. But these were my kids, and I just didn't feel good about Big Pharma trying to give my kids anything. So it started when I was raising the kids, and then it grew bigger and bigger. And there was at one point where I actually ran for state senate, and I was winning. I actually won the primary. I pulled out of the race because I saw at the time both sides were corrupt. And so it was a group of people I didn't really want to be involved in. And one of the people that they put in front of us, and I will never forget this man, but he was a big pharma guy, and he was trying to make sure we were all on board with him and his agenda. And all I can say is that he was incredibly obese, and he was almost like, I can't describe how foul his mouth actually looked, like just kind of slathering, and it was just like, and I said to him, and I felt like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm like going up against the devil right here. And I said to him, in no way, shape, or form will I ever support anything that you are doing. And this was back in 2012. And they put us in front of 3 people in particular that night. They wanted to own the gambling. But yet, if I went to my basement, I had a basement at that time. If I went to my basement and you and I played poker with pennies, I would go to jail for that if they knew. But yet they wanted to control the gaming. That's the way it is. They get for me, not thee, right? So then the other one was a big pharma guy, that guy. And, I forget who the third one was at this moment, but I said no to all 3. But the pharma guy's the one who stuck out. I mean, it was literally a demon. It's the way to describe that guy.
Wow.
Yeah. And he wasn't too keen on it, but he was like sarcastic, and, he just dripped evil. And so I knew, man, they'll fight for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and most people aren't aware that the AMA, right? And all the medical schools were started by the Rockefellers.
Yes.
So we're like pre-programming so there's a lot of great doctors across our country, a lot of great MDs, surgeons, and so forth, and they're practicing what they've been trained and taught. And then so there's been this shift into fixing it's almost like they want to keep us sick and keep us prescribed, right?
There's so much money in that, but if you're gonna, let's say, detox of heavy metals, so cheap. I mean, there's many things that I use when I detox of a heavy metal, but you can go to a grocery store and pick up some cilantro, and that'll help a lot, but they wouldn't tell you that. Or let's say you want to do a parasite cleanse. And again, there's many things I use when I do a parasite cleanse, but you can also go to the grocery store and pick up a papaya and eat those seeds. And those will help to pull parasites out. I don't chew the seed, but I swallow the seed. And that will help it's almost like a magnet to certain parasites, pull them out. But they don't tell you that because there's There's no money in that. It's, you're going to buy an organic papaya and eat that over the course of 7 to 10 days and really work on your belly. And this whole metabolic syndrome, that's like the name of the day. Like, we've been working on the metabolic syndrome for 20 years, 25 years. I work with a doctor who's 85. He just wrote a book called The Metabolic Syndrome, and I wrote the foreword of it. It's Dr. Joel Wallach, who's been around forever. He used to work with Marlon Perkins, if you know that name, and Wild Kingdom. He was a doctor of veterinary medicine at that time, and then he became a naturopathic physician. And, you know, metabolic syndrome is not some thing where you got to go and get your hormone pills and all these bioidenticals. I don't believe in any of that. At the end of the day, people have to think about the body and what's natural to it and what's not. And eating pills that are made in a lab, that are chemicals that have a laundry list of side effects, like this long, okay, that's not good. Those side effects happen to somebody and could happen to you. And even if it does one temporary good thing, you're going to have 25 bad things that maybe you don't even see for years. So the body despises synthetics. It only wants the real deal. And the real deal, at minimum, the body needs 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids every single day. And if you're just a couch potato, that'll suffice. But if you're athletic or you're a go-getter, A-type personality, always moving, you're going to be sweating that out. If you go to the gym in 45 minutes, you got to re-put it back in again. So you can't ask of this magnificent body to work for you if you don't feed it. And the ground is depleted. So if it's not coming from minerals and vitamins, minerals that are supplemented, most people will get sick and will die early.
So walk us through, I want to become a client of yours. How do we, what's the process? And you will see anyone all over the world. You don't have to be local.
Yeah, that's what's fun. I get to meet people from everywhere. So I really, you know, and they hear me on a show, and I will do anybody's podcast as long as we're furthering the word. Last night I taped with 4 Jamaican radio stations. We're hitting another market. It was amazing. So, so they just go to the website, thebodycan.com. Okay. Thebodycan.com. And they can, it'll say get scheduled, and they can look there. Now there is other types of appointments if they have a cancer or heart disease or trigeminal neuralgia. Those are specific, but otherwise everybody should everybody should get a full analysis. That's the baseline. It shows you everything. And I do charge up front, but then you have 5 more months of appointments where you don't pay me a dime. So you do pay it up front, and then I give you the 5 complimentaries after that. And that's where we're looking at everything. You're going to fill out a 3-page questionnaire, because I can't see necessarily your blood sugar levels spiking. Okay, so you got to tell me that's happening. I can't see that you have been diagnosed a type 2 or a type 1 diabetic, for example. But the goal is to get you off of all the meds that you're on in a timely manner, because the body hates those, doesn't want you to have them. And so we're going to focus on getting rid of that, getting your nutrients to where they are. But then when I look at faces, fingernails, tongues, like there's crazy things that'll show up, let's say in the fingernails, that you had no idea, like internal bleeding, for example. It'll show up there and nowhere else. So if you have that, wouldn't you want to know? So you do the full analysis, and then we address every single thing that I see, that I find. So people can do it in bits and pieces, or they can do it all at once as far as when they decide that they're going to address it with the protocol I put together. But I go at it. That's what people are paying me for. What do you see? How are you going to handle it? And how can we put this together? So we take all of the thought process out of it for everybody, They just got to get me the pictures and the form, and I get to work. So, things like Ozempic, that's all the rage. I'm totally against it. I was against it before all of these bad things started to be announced that were happening, like frozen stomachs, vomiting every day of your life, gastrointestinal issues. It was just like what happened in 2020, and a lot of people raced to go get a jab, not even asking any questions, not looking at the inserts. In fact, in the first ones, the inserts weren't there to my knowledge. And so I feel like a lot of people are doing that now with bioidenticals. Oh, my hormones are off. So, this is why I'm a little crazy. This is why my cycles are off. So now I'm going to take this bioidentical, which again is a fake. The body doesn't like it. The body wants the sustenance, and the brain is very smart. It will recognize it, and then it will heal it naturally. No drugs needed. So same for Ozempic. A diabetic, if you've been a diabetic more than 6 months of your life, a type 2 especially, or a later in life diagnosed 1, because a 1 can only be at birth. Anybody past that's a misdiagnosis. Okay. But that's all reversible in about 6 months or less. In every case I've had, practically, maybe 1 or 2 took a couple extra weeks. So it's just their body finally going to work. I'm not curing anybody. I don't claim that, but I do have the knowledge of what it takes to get that to happen.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. So what do you do any of the like health and freedom conferences or any type of do you travel at all doing events like that?
I haven't done health and freedom. Nobody's asked me on that one. I would love for someone. I am going to something this weekend in Orlando called, I believe it's called Faith and Freedom. So I'm going to head up to that one as a guest. Somebody's just given me a pass, which is nice. I like those passes because I do so many events. So I'm going to go to that. But yeah, I should be on those stages, all of those stages, because what I have here, nobody else is talking about. And the one thing I've not done is formulate my own products, because I'm not a formulator. It's not really been an avenue I've wanted to go down, and with the whole country getting squeezed. But if I did, I would do what I have now, which is products that come from America, from ground in America, from mineral mines here. And everything is like pristine clean. And it gets right straight to the root of whatever the cause is. So yeah, I've been on other shows, Sean Hannity Radio, Charlie Ward, Mark Z, I think it was called the Power Hour, Mike Lindell TV a few times. So I've definitely been on lots of shows. Plus I was a Fox affiliate, talk show host for 8 years. So that was a long time.
Was there, you've kind of grew up in this path and looking at how, we have divine health. God's made this amazing body. It heals itself if we, take the right natural products, right? Or, what God's provided.
Mm-hmm.
But was there a moment did you have a significant moment that brought you to an awakening of this country? And there's a huge, to me, there's a movement across this country, and there's a craving for the truth and health and in, and really in everything. But was there a moment for you that happened?
Yeah, there was probably several, but I'll tell you about one of my students when I was going through clinicals. And it was a gentleman who, at the time, I didn't know that he was a recovered alcoholic. And I asked him if he would be one of my students for my clinicals. And he said, sure. So I told him which pictures I needed. And he said to me, I just had coffee, and I'll get you pictures once I've gone back and I've been able to brush my teeth, etc. I said, okay. So I waited and waited and waited, and literally the pictures didn't come in until close to midnight. And when I looked at him, I was like, this, he thought his tongue was a different color, let's say, because of the coffee. But yet it was still the same color of the coffee 12 hours later, 15 hours later, and hadn't had coffee anytime recent. And so in that time frame, the person who had referred me him, or maybe he had sent me the paperwork, somehow I had found out he was a recovered alcoholic. So the minute I read that, I said, oh, okay, so I know what I'm going to see. Let's test myself. So when the pictures came, for sure, I was spot on what I thought it was going to look like. And that's when that was a pivotal moment for me, because didn't know this guy, hadn't seen a thing, just read one thing on his report that told me that. And so I knew what I was expecting. And so at that moment, I knew, gosh, this is my thing. I'm good at this, because already I had been practicing and prepping and everything. And I had now had other clients coming in throughout the day. So that was pivotal, because that guy was a recovered alcoholic of maybe 20 years or so. And so that was pivotal, because I knew, okay, I'm good. I know what I'm doing here. This is going to be great. I can keep moving forward with this and deep dive on this. This is fantastic. So that was one. And then I think when I was a Fox affiliate talk show host, I didn't really realize how powerful my words on air were going to actually be. And, it moved into doing a health bit every single week. And then the moment where they literally cut my legs out from underneath of me by killing that show, I realized, wow, they're actually listening. And I've now crossed their line. And at that same time, I've been traveling the whole country doing lectures. And of course, that came to a screeching halt. And so I had to revamp the way I was doing what I was doing, because I was doing these analyses at my lectures or meeting up with the people after, like standing room only, literally. And I had a guy come up to me once, and he was in his 80s, and he said, I've gone to lectures all my life. And and I had lectured literally with no notes for about 4.5 hours, and you could hear a pin drop in the room with all the information that I was giving. And when he said to me, he goes, you hands down were the best lecture I've ever heard. I knew then also that the world needed to hear this. And so that's when I said, okay, I lost the show after that. And so the way I was doing business. And so then I said, you know what? I'm going to go on everybody else's show. And I'm going to get the word out to this group and that group and that group and that country. And that them getting rid of me in that show was the best thing that could have ever happened. So when people say doors close and other doors open, that is exactly how I pray. God, please open only the doors that I'm supposed to walk through, and slam shut all of the doors that I'm not supposed to be walking through, because life is short and I don't want to make any mistakes anymore, because God knows I've made plenty.
Wow.
So,
well, thank you so much for your time and for being on the show and for sharing your message. Do you have any final words, like maybe a prayer to take us out?
yeah, that would be amazing. Hopefully I do everybody justice, but I just, God, listen to your people, and people, you must speak it. His word is written, but there's more power when we speak it out loud. So for everyone that's listening, please don't keep it inside, speak it out loud. And then you're asking and you're believing and knowing that you're receiving your answer. Even if it's not in your timeline, just know that that's it. It's sealed. You don't need to ask him again and again and again. And follow his laws for food and what you can and you can't have. Listen to his word, because his word never lies. And stand on that. And it says in his word to pray unceasingly. I go through my house and I am constantly talking to God. I drive down the street, I am talking to God. Like, I don't end, and I'm following what he says. And is life perfect? No, but he doesn't also promise that. But things can be better if you do it that way. So I just pray for all of you. I pray for your health. I pray for our country. I pray that we pull this out and that his people are saved. I pray that you don't waver or turn and don't make decisions that are against God. Don't mock God. And for those that do, woe unto you, his word says it. So I just pray for all of you. God bless you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And if you do come to me, I treat you as if you are me, if you were one of my sons. And no doctor out there is going to tell that to you. So thank you. God bless you all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Randi Shannon, and thebodycan.com. And
Outstanding.
thank you for watching, and continue to get on the ark and stay on the ark.
Stay on the ark. By the way, the number 2 is 844-275-1056. I know people sometimes would rather do that than go to the website. 844-275-1056. Thank you so much.
Thank you.